What is going on, everybody? I am going to be here to discuss a bunch of what I think are the best Delta Pokemon from the game Pokémon Insurgence on our custom Showdown server here that we've been able to use to play a lot of ladder games and draft league games with Pokemon from the Pokemon Insurgence game. It's been a lot of fun. Really, I'm enjoying it. I'm starting to get a good feel of what I think the metagame is slowly turning out to be, and so I felt, why not discuss a bunch of what a bunch of the best Delta Pokemon that have been making the biggest impact on the ladder. So here I have this video for you guys. Now, I do have a couple of ground rules first to go over. First, I'm not going to be talking about any Mega Evolutions because if I did, they'd be cluttering this entire video, and I would rather make a separate video for them, what the best Megas are over there. And I will also not be talking about anything that is banned to Ubers. So no UFI, no Volcarona, Delta Volcarona, obviously, and no Cake Crustal are the three examples of Deltas that we have banned from the ladder. They are just really overpowered and not really part of the ladder in the first place. So I didn't really think that there's much of a point to go into those any further. That's about all I got, so let's get this started now. Alright, so let's get this started then. I'm just going to go ahead into my team builder here. We've got a lot of Pokemon to go through here. So let's just get this started. We got Regirock Delta right here. Now, Regirock is one of the toughest walls in the entire game to break through. This thing, you might be thinking, oh, it's just Regirock. It's one of the pretty lame legendary back in Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. Well, you take all that out, you can throw all that out the window because now it has been given Recover. And so what this means is that it's 200 defense, it's 80 HP at 200 defense, become incredibly bulky. It's one of the toughest Pokemon to bring down in one hit. In fact, I have never actually seen it happen. On top of that, it has the new ground typing because it's Delta, which means that it now has a resistance to things like Stealth Rock. It's now resisted to rock type attacks. It's resisted to some poison type attacks. It's a much better defensive typing as well as offensive typing. Of course, you have Earthquake. It was given Body Press. Don't ask me why, it was just given Body Press. So yeah, 200 base defense Body Presses are going to do a lot of damage with that ground type coverage. Of course, it also has Stealth Rock itself. You can use things like Toxic. I feel like you're most often going to want to keep Body Press on, and you have Knockoff. You can absolutely run offensive sets here with things like Power Punch, Rock Slide, Smackdown, Stone Edge, Earthquake, Thunder Punch, Superpower, Hammer Arm, Fire Punch, Focus Punch. I mean, this thing has so many different moves, and this is actually going to be a common theme among Deltas. They have really big move pools. And of course, on top of all that, as if it wasn't already such a great tank on its own, it has the Dry Skin ability, which means that if you can put this thing on a rain team, like with Delta Serperior, Pelipper, anything like that, then it is the ability to just heal 1/8 of its HP every single turn. So, because why not, right? It wasn't already annoying enough to deal with. It also means that its water type weakness is completely removed. It's only now weak to grass and ice, and it has complete immunities to both electric and water type attacks. So yeah, it can come in on Rotom Wash all day long. Doesn't really mind getting burned because that means that it's not poisoned. This thing is incredibly difficult to take down. It's one of the most... It's one of the... I keep reiterating that, I know, but it really is tough to bring down. So let's move on to its partner now, Delta Regice. Of course, it is the water type version of regular Regice, also with Recover, which means it is probably the most perfect example of a bulky water type in this format that is not a Mega Evolution. We'll get to Mega Evolutions probably in another video. But for now, we're just sticking with the regular Deltas, of course. It has Recover. That's all you really need to know. Of course, it has Scald. It has Rocks as well. You have Toxic, you have Knockoff, again, a lot of the same moves as before. It also has Body Press, it has Drain Punch. You're probably going to want to use special attacks just given this thing's regular attack stats. So, again, Scald, you have Ice Beam, you have... You probably won't want to use Signal Beam, I'm pretty sure that move got cut anyway. You have Thunderbolt, you have Thunder Wave, you have Water Spout, which can be pretty surprising, again, if you want to run a more offensive set, which is absolutely possible. You have Earth Power, you have Blizzard, Ancient Power. This thing has so many different moves that it can use to some degree of viability that just the fact that it doesn't often want to run those moves, instead of wanting to run like this sort of bulky set right here, is absolutely ridiculous. If we can see, you can run a physically defensive set, and you can have this thing at 364 HP, 328 defense, 437 special defense without any investment, really. And that's just absurd. Of course, Leftovers is pretty much a given. It has the ability Storm Drain, which is not quite as ridiculous as Dry Skin, but it's still really, really nice to, again, absorb water-type attacks, increase its special attack by 1. So again, you can make it a bit more offensive if you can switch it in on some of those powerful water-type attacks. These two alone completely blank things like Dracovish, Rotom, well, not Rotom Wash, but the Regirock completely destroys Rotom Wash. This thing just blocks Dracovishes and Mega Swamperts and whatnot all day long. It's incredibly difficult to deal with. Now, these aren't exactly the flashiest, most fun options to use. I completely understand that, which is what will bring me to our third Regi, Delta Registeel. Fire-type Pokemon, of course, has Recover as well. It has Stealth Rock. It has a lot of the same moves as its brothers, as its brother and sister back here. But of course, you have Fire-type moves, so you got Eruption. Not the most viable move, considering it really has quite low special attack and speed, so you're probably not going to want to run this, but it is an option. You have Fire Blast, you have Lava Plume, which is probably going to work better on a defensive set to spread burns relatively well. I think it has dual screens as well, not bad. Again, you have Knockoff, you have Thunder Wave. A lot of the same moves that its partners do. But what really makes this thing stand out is its ability Foundry. What this does, well, it has Flame Body as well, but you're probably going to be here for Foundry, and the reason for this is Foundry makes all, as you can see here, all Fire-type, all Rock-type moves turn into Fire-type moves, and they gain a bit of power as well. So what this means is that you can use something like Ancient Power. It'll turn into a Fire-type move, and again, of course, you're aiming for that stat boost. So if you can get that and you're a Fire-type move, then it's not too shabby. Of course, you have also things like Rock Slide. You have Stone Edge. Stone Edge can do a decent amount of damage if you can get that high critical hit, get that critical hit ratio, and if you don't miss. It's just another option. It doesn't actually have that many different Rock-type moves at its disposal is the thing. Except for, of course, Stealth Rock. And what this means is this is where things get really, really interesting. You can have Stealth Rock turn into a Fire-type entry hazard, which means that Ferrothorn, when switching, becomes completely eviscerated. 50% damage taken without heavy-duty boots. It's absolutely amazing to see that happen. Things like Aegislash, 25% damage. Celesteela, 25%. Steel types are find themselves in quite the predicament against Registeel and its Stealth Rocks that are Fire type. It's really, really fun to try out. I've done a couple of different teams with Delta Registeel to see what can really turn into some big offensive threats with Steel types being significantly more nerfed. Same with Grass types. Now Bug and Ice, of course, they already kind of get screwed over by Stealth Rocks without heavy duty boots on for the most part, so it doesn't really affect them. But Steel types it's a real big change for them, and it's one of the reasons why Registeel is one of the most interesting Delta Pokemon in the entire game, if you ask me. But moving on, I don't want to spend too much time on any one Delta Pokemon specifically. Of course, next we have Chandelure here. If you remember anything about regular Chandelure, the thing has 145 special attack, 80 speed. It had Calm Mindsets. It had great dual stab combination. Now, try amplifying that even more with the Fairy Aura ability and, of course, the Fairy type. All Fairy type moves that it gets have an even more power than they already do. If you remember Xerneas being such a huge threat with Geomancy, of course, now you have Chandelure. You got its little brother here. It's Chandelure. Of course, spamming Moonblast does absolutely incredible amounts of damage to even some resists. They take a lot of damage from this thing. Of course, you have Fire Blast as well. This is a great dual stab combination because Fire, of course, melts the Steel types that Fairy would, that its Moonblast would otherwise resist. It's a great option here for you to handle those Steel types. Of course, it also means that you're not weak to Steel types in return, so this is a good way to deal with them. You have some other great coverage options like Energy Ball and Earth Power. This right here alone, if you can have a Scarf set or a Spec set, is nearly all that you really need for powerful offensive sets. But lo and behold, Chandelure, because why not, can also go defensive. You can run like Moonlight. You can go through this moveset here, and you will eventually find Wish all the way at the very bottom. You have Will-O-Wisp as well. You have Calm Mind for a good setup, you can just run something like Calm Mind, Wish, Protect. Calm Mind, Wish, Protect, Moonblast, and you can just slowly set up and sweep a whole bunch of different teams. Just with this kind of moveset, you can run like physically defensive, and then you just set up 328 special attack with Fairy Auras. You don't need to invest all that much. If you can get one Calm Mind up, that Moonblast is going to tear through a lot of different Pokemon. You have 80 speed, you're outrunning a lot of the bulky threats on the metagame, like Regice, Regirock. If you get one Calm Mind up, then and any of these Regis do not have Toxic, then you beat them. You beat them, and you can just steamroll through teams that way. So I like this set a lot personally, but of course, there's nothing wrong, of course, with going with these Specs or Scarf sets as well. You can even go Life Orb. The thing is Heal Bell too. Jeez, it's a fantastic support Pokemon on top of one of the biggest offensive threats. It's one of my favorites in the game as well, and I'm really glad that Chandelure is such a nice Delta because it's already a really cool Pokemon with the Ghost typing. You have Psychic and Scald. Why does this thing have Psychic, Scald, Stored Power as well? This is not okay. Anyway, I've talked about this one enough. Let's move on to Metagross. Delta Ruin, it name kind of goes off the page there, but Metagross Ruin is a really big fan favorite in our server. Thing is incredibly strong. If you thought Tyrantrum was a powerful head smash spammer, if you thought Rampardos was what's the word I'm looking for? Underrated, then you can throw all that out the window because Metagross is here to just spam that move all day long. I know someone who's going to be making a pretty long video on just about this Choice Band set. Mostly a meme video, but if you do want to go and check that out, I will link it when the time comes in the description. Anyway, dude has Head Smash and Wood Hammer with the Rock Head ability. It's not going to be taking recoil from either of these moves. Of course, this alone is pretty much all it really needs. It's going to be doing like 40%. If you do an max adamant Head Smash with Choice Band, it can do up to 40-something% to a Magearna, like a all-out physically defensive Magearna, and that is absolutely ludicrous. Of course, Magearna isn't even a switch-in in the meetings, which that means Magearna is not even a switch-in in the first place. Even if it wasn't going to be doing as much, of course it has Earthquake for coverage if you can predict that and just get the instant KO on it. The thing also is Priority Crystal Rush, which is a Insurgence exclusive move. It does neutral damage to every single other type in the game, and it is priority, so, you know, it's not too bad for cleaning up. You don't get stab on it, though. That's reserved for its crystal form, but that's banned. Not going to be talking about that here. But yeah, Crystal Rush is a good option. Of course, I'm here to go through a more overall rundown of this, so I'm not going to be talking about Choice Band all day long. You have Choice Scarf for a pretty similar effect, except it's a bit more of a revenge killer. You have bulky sets with leftovers. You can go Stealth Rock, Leech Seed, Diamond Storm right here is a very good trio of moves. It already has a very nice defense stat of 130. You can make that go really, really high, and then like Synthesis, because the only problem with this set is that you only have 8 Diamond Storms, and you might not want to have just 8, so you can also put in Wood Hammer and just have someone else be your Stealth Rocker. This is a good set right here. I'm a very big fan of this. You have Drain Punch. I mean, this thing is an absolutely massive move pool, so you can really customize your Metagross Ruin any way you want if you don't want to just go with the tried and true Choice Band or Choice Scarf sets. You have Rock Polish for you can have the Scarf set's power of sweeping without being restricted by choice, so that's a fantastic option right there. In New Moon, you have Hone Claws, so you can double your attack and accuracy for guaranteed head smashes if you can get them. If you can stay alive that long, it's still gonna have low speed, but that is a great option. You have Taunt, Thunder Wave, Toxic, Thunderbolt, Thunder Punch, Volt. Why does this thing have all these electric type moves? It's a rock grass type. You would not think that it would have all these moves right here, but it does. It's crazy. It has Zen Headbutt as well. It has X Scissor. You have Aerial Ace because Chestnut is one of the only things that can reliably switch into Metagross until it starts running this thing, or Zen Headbutt. You can just completely destroy anything that might want to switch in. And I don't have a whole lot more to say other than that. I mean, I really could go on and on, but again, I want to go through these relatively quickly. I would recommend trying this thing out for yourself if you want to customize it however you want, because it's a very versatile Pokemon. It's one of my favorites as well. I can definitely see why it's a big fan favorite. But of course, it's not the only Metagross form that there is here. We have Metagross Delta Spider, and this is actually the one that I personally prefer. I used it in our draft league in Season 2, and it was definitely a pretty solid Pokemon. And the reason for this is because you have Poison Heal for a hidden ability, so the slap on a Toxic Orb, it becomes a discount Gliscor if you want to run it in that way. But the most fun option here is the fact that not only does it have Stealth Rock, but it also has Sticky Web. It's a spider, of course. You have Spikes. No, not Spider Web. You have Spikes, and you have Toxic Spikes. You have every single hazard in the game. And yes, I have ran all 4 of these in a game before, although I really, really don't recommend it. It is funny that the thing literally gets every single hazard in the game, except for like Permafrost and Livewire, but those are banned anyways. I'm not going to let those happen anytime soon. Of course, now, if you look at the rest of its move pool, there are plenty of options here. Of course, Earthquake is pretty much a given. Agility for sweeping. You have Brick Break, Crunch, Double Edge. Just kind of looking through its moveset right here, because not even I've memorized everything it's got. You have High Horsepower in case... High Horsepower is pretty good in this metagame because Rillaboom is a pretty big threat to be able to take out these Regis. Mega Milotic as well. Rillaboom can handle them pretty well. For the most part, of course, it doesn't want to take a Scald, but, you know... so High Horsepower is good for that. You have Gunk Shot as well to kill Rillaboom back. You've got Hone Claws again for New Moon. You get that double attack boost when the New Moon is up. Knockoff is fantastic. This is a great lead Pokemon because of these attributes. You have Lunge and Leech Life. Actually, does it have Leech Life? It does not have Leech Life. Okay, for some reason I thought it had Leech Life. I seem to remember it did, but I guess it doesn't. So Lunge is a really good bug stat here. You can handle other physical attackers relatively well. You're healing the entire time with Poison Heal, so that's solid. That's definitely a very solid option. You have Smackdown, Sludge Bomb, Toxic, Superpower, Taunt, U-Turn is fantastic on this kind of a lead set. And of course you have things like Super Fang, Sticky Web, I already went over. Rock Polish I went over. If there's anything else important that I missed, no, that's about it. That's about everything I've gone over. It's a fantastic Pokemon. One of my favorites. It has Corrode as well, Cross Poison. Corrode is really nice. To be able to deal with Steel types, of course, you already have Earthquake, so I don't think you'll want to always be running that move anyway. But yeah, that's Metagross Spider. I really, really like it. Ground Bug is a unique typing. Only Nincada has it in the main series games, and that's, well, it's Nincada. It's not even a fully evolved Pokemon, so as far as I'm concerned, this is the only ground bug type in the entire game. At least in Pokemon Insurgence, and so it's really, really unique already. Rock Grass is also pretty unique typing. I think only Cradily gets it. So Cradily is also not very common whatsoever, especially in OU. So these are very unique Pokemon right there. And with that, I'm gonna go into next team builder here. We have our next couple of Delta Pokemon. So next up we have Hydreigon. Yeah, that took a little while, I apologize for that. But here we are with Hydreigon Delta. Intoxicate is its ability, it's its only ability, and that's really all it needs because normal moves become poison type and have 1.2 times power, so it's basically Pixelate or Refrigerate for poison moves. And what this means is that you can use things like Hyper Voice, you can use Hyper Beam for an outright nuke, you have Hyper Voice, you have Tri Attack, you have Body Slam if you want to go on the physical side. These all become poison moves. And again, you don't really have to worry about them not being able to hit ground type attacks because A, you have Corrode, which is really, really helpful, and B, of course, you're a ground type. Just use Earth Power. So I really don't see a problem with a set like this. A set like this, you have great coverage options as well, like Dragon Pulse. You have Fire Blast, is fantastic right there to hit bug types that can resist poison, things like that, or ice types as well. I was gonna say, like, you don't really need grass or steel type coverage. You already have Hyper Voice or Tri Attack, things like that. Of course, you can't really use, you don't allow hidden power anymore. Giga Drain is nice to get a bit of health back. And just run like Life Orb here, and of course, because why not? It also has hazards. You have Stealth Rock. Seem to remember getting Spikes as well, but I guess not. Yeah, just have Stealth Rock. Okay, just looking through its move pool here. You know, it only has Stealth Rock, so it can be a good lead set with Stealth Rock. Tri Attack to potentially get some status on there. You have Roost as well to heal. You have U-Turn and Earth Power. This thing has pretty much everything it needs to be a pretty reliable Pokemon. It doesn't really have setup, but it also doesn't need it when you have that high of a special attack. Because remember, it's Hydreigon stats. It has 125 special attack. That's great right here. This number right here on top of Intoxicate and Life Orb, doing a crap ton of damage with Hyper Voice. So very, very useful right there. Body Slam as well if you want to invest physically, which you definitely can as Coil. So you could just use Coil, Body Slam, Earthquake as dual Wing Beat for whatever reason. Foul Play is a solid option. High horsepower. Yeah, it's very, very, very versatile, and for that, it's again one of my favorites. It's very reliable. I like reliability in this metagame. It's very volatile out there, and so to have something as simple to use as this is quite nice to have. So next, let's move on to Escavalier. Before Escavalier, there was Delta K Crustle, but that ended up getting banned because just clicking simple Shell Smash was absolutely ridiculous. There's very little counterplay, and when there was, and it was kind of warping the metagame on its own to the extent that it was being used at. But here now we have Escavalier, and this one takes a little bit longer to get set up, but it still has a simple ability, and so you can just click Swords Dance this time for instant +4 attack. It also has Trick Room, so you can get these two moves up, and you are now always going to go first, because again, it's Escavalier stats. The thing is 20 speed, never going to do anything out there. I mean, this 371 attack already, and of course Fairy type. So your only weaknesses are to Poison and Steel, but you really don't need to worry that much about it. Again, first of all, you have Play Rough to hit these things incredibly hard. You have Cross Chop to hit Steel types really hard, and Brick Break for a bit more reliability. Facade in case this thing gets burned, which is often a common way to beat it. You have Knockoff. It doesn't have that big of a move pool, all things considered, compared to other deltas. I mean, but it has pretty much everything it needs. Wild Charge, Zen Headbutt, Superpower. This is all you're gonna really need at the end of the day to hit everything that the Escavalier might otherwise struggle against. So, for example, something like Aegislash can come in, styes to Knockoff. You have a Delta Registeel that comes in, which is probably one of the better checks around, which can then burn it. Rock Slide is gonna absolutely demolish it if it's not if it gets that Sword Stance up. So this thing is a good enough move pool to be a serious threat once it gets set up. It doesn't even need to be the Trick Room on its own. You can just pair it with something like Mega Reuniclus or like Porygon 2, Hatterene, anything like this. Slowbro is becoming one of the hottest Trick Room setters out there with Teleport now. So you can just bring this in then and go to town. So next, let's move to Delta Serperior. Pretty much the thing that is single-handedly taking Rain to absolutely incredible new levels. Pelipper becomes completely obsolete with this thing around because it's water and dragon type with good defenses and everything it needs to be a great rain setter. You have Defog to remove hazards. You have Glare still, instant paralysis. You have Flip Turn. This thing gets Flip Turn. I don't know why I don't know why you thought that putting Flip Turn on Delta Serperior was an okay thing to allow to happen, but the thing gets Flip Turn. God. I mean, it has Knockoff, of course. It has Slack, it also has Slack Off. You have Draco Meteor for just a strong Dragon type attack, or Hydro Pump for boosted water attack. You have Thunderbolt. Alright, never mind, you have Thunder because, you're setting up the rain, so you have this move, you have Thunder Wave. Toxic, again, you have Weather Ball for a guaranteed 100 base power water type move. Right there, if you don't want to click Hydro Pump. Liquidation, I mean, this is by far the best weather setter in the entire format. It's ridiculous how good this thing is. You can run Damp Rock, of course, that's pretty much a staple, and this thing can trigger so many fantastic rain sweepers that are in this metagame. Of course, you have Delta Regirock that I've already talked about with its Dry Skin ability, but one of Serperior's favorite partners is Delta Dragonite, which is I mean, the stats speak for itself. If you know Dragonite, it has 134 attack, 80 speed, 100 and something special attack, and the thing is absolutely ridiculous on the battlefield. So I'm going to be next moving on to Hoopa Delta Unbound. So Hoopa now has the Fairy and Flying typing. It's got Cloud 9, and what this means is that the thing can just go crazy. This thing just absolutely goes crazy. You have Aeroblast. Who thought it was a good idea to give this thing Aeroblast? I will never know. It has Dazzling Gleam for another Fairy type stab, and of course it doesn't end there. Of course it does not end there. it would already be pretty stupidly strong with just these two moves. You just spam this with a Choice Scarf or Choice Specs. Jeez, that does not sound fun. But of course it has other options. So you have Focus Blast, Ice Beam, and I'm just talking about special attacks right here. You have to remember, the thing has 160 physical attack as well. You have Psychic, Shadow Ball, Thunderbolt, U-Turn, Volt Switch. You have both pivot options right here. Weather Ball. You have Cloud9, so I don't know why you'd always want to have Weather Ball on your moveset, but like, it's there. It is there. You have Taunt, Tailwind, Substitute, of course. Protect, Power Punch, Pain Split, Nasty Plot. The thing has Nasty Plot. I don't know how you stop this set right here if it's played correctly. I don't know what to do here. It has Agility, of course. Just run a Double Dance set. It doesn't matter that Steel types, oh, they can come in easily on this. No, they can't. Nothing can really come in on this after a Nasty Plot. Again, you have to remember, it has 170 special attack, 160 attack. It's one of the best mixed attackers in the game. Hoopa is finally unleashed. It's been widely considered that regular Hoopa Unbound is incredibly hit or miss because it's Psychic Dark typing, and it was banned in XY. It was allowed in Sun and Moon, but it over time eventually ended up in the borderline list, just because it had a severe weakness to things like Pursuit and U-Turn. It had very low defenses, and while this thing does still have very, very low HP and defense, it's Fairy and Flying typing. It's now immune to things like Earthquake, Dragon attacks. It has resistances to Fighting type attacks. It's now 4 times resistant to Bug. This is a much better typing to have than Psychic and Dark for this kind of an attacker, and so I was almost gonna ban it. But again, you still have 80, 60 right here. So it's somewhat manageable. It's weak to priority as a result, so it has a couple weaknesses, but I can completely understand why someone would look at this and be like, I don't know what you do. I often don't know what you can do. The thing's crazy. We still have 2 more to talk about. Next up, of course, is another big fan favorite, Meloetta Delta M. No, this thing is called Meloetta Delta Mime. And pretty much what you're looking at is exactly how you are going to be. I lost my train of thought right there, but it just shrugs at your opponent. You know, it cleans up teams, and it just shrugs like, oh, I don't know what to say, man. I don't know what to say. I'm just way too good for this metagame. Something like that. Now, if you know anything about regular Meloetta, then you'll know that Meloetta has pure wet form, of course. You have to click Relic Song in order to unlock that form, and then you can become a pretty strong attacker, but of course that means you're giving up a move slot, and you also have to be, really just giving up that move slot and having the turn to set up to actually get those cleaner stats is what really holds that thing back. But with Meloetta Mime, you're instantly given those stats. You have 128 attack and 128 speed, which are both incredible to go on top of 100 HP and the filter ability. So you don't even take as much damage from super effective attacks, which means that poison type attacks, they're not all that bad. Steel type attacks, you can probably live a couple of them. You could probably live an unstabbed super effective steel type attack or poison attack or whatever comes its way, especially with that 100 HP. Now, this thing is a pretty standard moveset. You have like Knockoff, you have Play Rough, you have U-Turn, you have your choice of coverage. So you can go with Fire Punch, you can go with Ice Punch, you can go Consuming Thunder Punch as well, right? Yep, it's got Thunder Punch. You have Sucker Punch or Priority. You have Power Up Punch to have a little bit of a setup. You have Iron Head as well. This thing has a lot of different moves at its disposal. I mean, you're almost always going to run these 3 moves, but that 4th move is what the real kicker is. You have Acrobatics as well. You just don't want to run an item, and you don't always need to run an item. The thing does plenty damage without a Life Orb. Of course, you have Life Orb, but that means you don't have quite as great of longevity as what Filter may promise, because you're losing HP, you're switching into Stealth Rocks. You might get status. Now this thing does have a couple counters. Delta Regirock is a pretty solid counter. Regice is another nice one. Registeel, going through the Regis at this point. They are good ways to stop it, but again, with the fact that this thing is U-Turn and you can just play around it with it, you can easily play around with either a good amount of chip. They don't like having their items knocked off as well. You can just have a Grass type partner, something like that. Again, Rillaboom has been pretty strong. Ash Greninja is great. Dark, double Dark Onslaught for your opponents. This thing is Um, and if you really don't want to run these 3 moves, if you want to make this thing more of a support set, you absolutely can. Taunt, um, Magic Coat, Dual Screens, Heal Bell, Encore are fantastic support options that can really mess up your opponent because they will never expect them coming. I mean, maybe if used often enough, then they will. But up to this point, really all Meloettas that I've been seeing on the ladder have been like knockoff Play Rough, Sucker Punch U-Turn. I know I personally run Black Glasses for an extra strong knockoff. Spamming Dark type attacks is pretty strong in and of itself. Pretty easy to use. It's one of the easiest Pokemon to just slap on teams and wreak havoc with. I really, really like it. And again, there's not much you can do to stop it. It just shrugs at you. And so finally, the last Delta that I'd like to talk about is Delta Arcanine. Oh my god. It is Extreme Killer that is allowed in OU. It's absolutely ridiculous. You have your choice of any of these really nice abilities. Inner Focus means that you can't get flinched by things like Fake Out, Rock Slide, Icicle Crash, any of those things. You have Intimidate to lower your opponent's physical attack on switch in, making for pretty easy setups with Swords Dance Extreme Speed. This right here is like every single Arcanine should run these 2 moves right here. Of course, you have Draco Jet as well. Dual stab priority right here. It's so dangerous. It's a normal dragon type. It's way better than Drampa will ever be. And for your choice of coverage, you have Earthquake to hit steel types that might wall it, or Fire Fang to hit things like Celesteela and Skarmory that can also resist Earthquake. And really, that's all you need. I look at all these other moves that the thing has, and I'm like, wow, this thing is quite versatile, but it doesn't matter. Swords Dance Extreme Speed is all you're ever really going to need to run, and it does it so incredibly well. Just put like Silk Scarf on it or Weakness Policy, because Weakness Policy is fantastic because it also has multi-scale. If you get this thing in without hazards on the field for free, you have the most guaranteed Swords Dance of your life. You can survive pretty much any kind of attack that isn't like a Choice Specs Dracon Voice or something like that from Latios or Mega Flygon or anything like that, and get the Weakness Policy up. So now you're at +4 attack, and Extreme Speed is gonna completely eviscerate pretty much everything that's not a Ghost type or the hardest Steel type out there. It's crazy. It's just crazy. So yeah, those are all the deltas that I wanted to talk about. That's a lot of talking that I just did. I know it's a pretty long video and also a pretty experimental one. As you can see, I was pretty freeform in how I was discussing these things. But I figured that it was something that I was wanting to make for a little while in preparation for our Season 3 of our Draft League. So thank you everyone for hanging in there, and I'll see you in Season 3, I guess.